You're listening to the Pure Athlete Podcast, the show where we deep dive into the world of sports.
Yeah.
And we're always going to be relinking it to student athletes and their parents. So super excited to get this one on the way. I'm Dr. Dustin Bosson. I am here with the athletic trainer herself, Erin Ruggeri. Here we go. What's going on? Fill us in. Where you want to start?
All right. So we're going to start actually with our segments.
We got a packed lineup.
Yeah, we do. Packed lineup. Our first podcast going out. So that'll be exciting.
So here's the deal. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the Pure Athlete on every handle you can think of. Peep the logo. There's a couple other Pure Athlete labeled things out there. So peep the logo. It's pretty unique. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. You can follow our personal pages as well. We have Dr. Dustin Bosson on Instagram and Facebook. And we have Erin.Ruggeri. Are you changing? Are you going to put the AT behind it?
Yeah, it's Erin.Ruggeri.atc now.
.atc. Perfect. So we have collaborated a doctor of chiropractic with an athletic trainer, and we are going to now produce a podcast called the Pure Athlete Podcast, which is going to be wrapped around a few different pillars of the Pure Athlete itself: mental, physical, relationships, giving parents and student athletes the resources they want, need, and deserve.
Right.
And so we're going to link in some national news, some local news as we go through the podcast, and link it into how it directly can correlate into student athletes from ages 10 all the way up through D1 professional sports.
Right. And before we move on with our segments, don't forget to shop our merch. So we have some sick merch with this fun logo on it. Buy yours now.
Yeah, 10% of all of our merch will go to, at least 10%.
Yeah.
At least 10% of all of our merch will go to student athlete mental health resources. So that'll be super fun. We've got an escrow account to be able to give some away to specific people. We're going to have an account to where it goes to specific organizations. That'll be super cool. So any merch that we drop, just know that it will be going towards helping student athletes with any sort of mental health services, resources that they might need. And on that same regard, obviously, if you're watching this, you see purple is a trend in this. Anything that is predominantly and wholly purple in our merch, there's only going to be 33 made. So just know anything that is solid purple, there's only 33. It is special edition. They will not be printed again. So if you like some of the designs on the purple stuff that you're about to see, snatch it up.
Yeah.
Not making it again.
Perfect. All right, let's kick things off with our segment.
All right.
So our first one we have is some headlines and highlights.
Let's go.
All right. So the first headline, really the big thing last night was the Kelsey Bowl, the family reunion game, the big Super Bowl rematch. Lots of things to deep dive into this on. I think the first one is the fact that you're playing your family.
Well, and it's been such a big deal, too. I mean, yes, you have to have the Taylor Swift conversation, and yes, you have the New Heights conversation, and the Kelseys are just awesome.
Yeah.
Kylie and Jason and Travis, and now you got T-Swizzle in the mix, too. So it's already very, very limelighted. And then you've got the Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes correlation with how they've hit it off being friends. And not to mention, you have both boys playing for both opposite teams in a Super Bowl rematch. You knew it was going to be a highlight.
Oh, yeah. I think a really cool thing, though, is that they are playing their family and that they have that in common with, like, their whole family is a football family through and through, clearly. And I think that's really cool, like, to share that with your family, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it that much more fun to watch. I always like watching parents show up in, like, half and half jerseys.
Yes, her shoes. Did you see her shoes?
Yes, yes. Absolutely. And then you've got somebody like Kylie who's like, I'm not sitting up in that booth.
Yep.
I'm going to sit in the stands.
Yep.
So that's super cool, too.
Yeah.
But it also can bring on a whole different, I wouldn't know. I guess there's some families in the area that will have kids that play the same sport maybe against each other.
Yeah.
But definitely more when you get into the college and professional, you have potentially two different teams.
Yep.
There was I believe he was college basketball. I believe it was basketball or volleyball. There's two girls that played for each other. She played at Michigan. So you see that a lot, and it kind of makes you wonder all those years that you've played together and throwing baseballs at each other or tackling each other in the front yard or, plowing spikes at your little sister's head.
Right.
It's like all those years of actually doing that. It's like, I've never got to experience playing my brother in anything, but it's like, I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, no, yeah. Me and my brother didn't play the same thing either. But it's also a lot of pressure too.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, it is a Super Bowl rematch, as everyone was kind of hyping it up to be.
Mm-hmm.
And just the amount of pressure that was put on both teams, really,
Right.
to show up and have the best game of their life, which you can't control that.
Right.
So it's a lot of pressure, too.
I wonder what the series is now, but in the last 2 games, it's 1-1.
Yeah.
They're all tied, all
Yeah.
square.
Yep.
Wonder if we're going to see a repeat of the Super Bowl.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah. No,
It's a good game.
So now, when you're playing a sibling too, or you have a sibling that plays a similar sport, or I think a lot of people might have heard the how Jason helped Travis and that whole scenario, but there's a lot on the other side of things that really parents need to key in on too. If you have athletes that are close in age,
Yeah.
and you have the first one goes out there and just sets the world on fire, right? And one thing to manage, and I see this all the time too, is the conversation from a parent aspect of when that younger brother or sister is coming up. And whether it's the brother or sister that leads or a brother or sister that follows, any combination of
Right.
that, being very careful. If one lights the world on fire right off the bat, be very, very cognizant of how the younger one tries to live in the shadow.
Yeah.
Are they in it? Are they driven? Are they kind of standoffish? How does that affect their mindset? Listen to what they say, because you can be on one end where they're just very, very driven and they're like, no, I got this. I'm going to do
Right.
the same thing. But you also have the dynamic too, where it could be like, man, I got to follow their footsteps.
Yeah.
It could be very, very overshadowing. And you see that a lot in the dance world too. With
There's
the
so many
TG coach.
siblings. Yeah. It's really hard, especially whenever, like, coaching teams, maybe one sister makes varsity your freshman year. And then the other one, like, she almost,
Yeah.
like, feels like she has to. But in reality, like, there really is no comparison when it comes to them being sisters or cousins a lot in the dance world at all. It's really just
Right.
wherever you fit best.
And I truly believe too, it's like you can spot that at a very young age.
Yeah.
Like whether they're 6 or 8 or 10, and you can see. I mean, a lot of parents, we're all biased. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, my kid's the best. They're
Yeah.
gonna be freaking awesome. But at the same time, you see that cream start to rise, and you watch the younger one kind of follow in the footsteps. Be very, very cognizant and lift them up. Give them what they need. They don't need to be coddled, but they don't need to be ignored. Oh, you can do it. And don't give the passive advice of, oh, you can do it. You're just younger. You'll get it.
Yeah.
You'll get it. And it's like, no. They're desiring the action of how can I get there faster. So I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old now that are playing hockey. I've got a 2-year-old too. So she's in her own little world. She don't need any validation. She's got it all figured out, I'm pretty sure. But I've got a 4 and 6-year-old where right
Yeah.
now they're starting to play hockey. They're starting to throw the baseball around. And so I'm very cognizant of how I speak to the younger one. Or it could be vice versa. The
Right.
younger one can set the world on fire, and the older
Exactly.
one's like, oh shit, like this guy's gonna be good. Like
Yeah.
I've got to stay on top. So, but lift them up, give them action items and actionable things that they can do to be better, and listen.
Yeah.
Listen to them and what they say.
Yeah, I think the other thing on this Kelsey Bowl situation is also the Kelsey family as a whole has been in the limelight a lot recently. There's a lot of talk about T Swizzle
Yeah.
and Travis, and then just also with the other, like, with him too. So that's another thing. Like, how much toll did that take on you as an athlete too?
Right.
I mean, if I was in the newspapers and on Twitter all the time and saw my own name, like, I don't think I would really feel the best.
And I like Jason's position. Didn't he get just voted like hottest man in the world
Yes.
or something
Yeah,
like
he was
that? Is that true?
He was a nominee,
He was
a
second
finalist.
place
Yeah.
for People's Sexiest Man Alive after Patrick Dempsey, who is Dr. McDreamy in Grey's
Yeah.
Anatomy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I like Jason's position. Just sit back there, be a bearded mongrel, raise 3 girls with an awesome family, an awesome wife, and just, yeah.
Yeah.
I
For
like
sure.
his position.
All right. Next segment.
Cool. Number 2.
All right, so our next one is actually called Professional Opinions. And we're going to have our producer here, Sam. She's going to show us some trending things in the sports world, and you're going to get our candid opinions, our reactions of what's going on. So hit it, Sam.
Yeah.
What do we got?
So one big thing I saw this weekend was Miss Angel. She is the Angel Reese. She is the star player on the LSU women's basketball team. She helped win them all those big games last year.
Okay.
She has been absent from the first 2 games this season.
Okay.
And their head coach is keeping quiet kind of about why she is not on the team. She's not suited up. She's on the bench. We don't really know why. Kim is like, it's really not in your business. But I will tell you that I am taking care of it. There are, you have to take care of locker room issues, but it's being handled. So I was just curious about what you guys thought maybe is going on is as a star athlete for Miss Angel.
I'm going to let Erin lead this one off, being directly in the women's sports world. And I'll be honest, Erin's probably the one that's more up on highlights and everything. I'm getting back into a lot of that, but go ahead and lead us off. I'll feed off of that.
Yeah, I think the first thing to know is how her coach is protecting her. Being a star athlete, she's kind of prone to getting a lot of hate on social media or criticism. Even if she had the best game of her life, someone's going to think it wasn't the best game. So I think it's huge that her coach, which she's also a legend in herself, is protecting her no matter what the circumstance is. Like, that is your job to protect them, no matter if it's something going on at home, if it's grades, if it's an injury that she wants to keep quiet. It's your job to keep that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Angel's pretty outspoken herself.
Yeah.
Right? Very competitive, very outspoken with.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you were right where I was going to head too, is it's like you don't hear a lot anymore. Usually they'll give you something about why, or, they just won't talk about it. But the fact of the matter is, like, look, ask me the questions.
Right.
I will not tell you exactly what's going on, but the important part is that she is sitting. We are handling it.
Yeah.
So to be very open about that. However, I do love that take. She's not hiding from the media, and she's also actively standing up for one of her teammates, because it's going to go two different ways. They're either protecting her from herself, media, and everything else, which is great, or there is something else going on that is just not allowed to be out there yet, and there's no need to speculate. So let's just go off of more of the empowering side of how she's protecting her athlete, because that's going to show Angel a lot too of the respect, loyalty that her coach has for her, which is just going to create that bond, which is a huge morale builder too. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this, because I haven't kept up a whole lot with women's basketball until the end of last year, so I was aware of the Caitlin Clark and the LSU conversation and that big game, but it is interesting that how this is all laying out. And now that you've sent me this article, I can kind of go through and pick a couple things apart. But it's also something to manage too. Now let's go to the player aspect.
Right.
The things that can happen being a star player, and this happens even at the high school level. You have an injury, or you have could it be grades? Could it be a teammate interaction that's definitely not ideal? Yes, hidden injury. What is it? But from a player's perspective, whether it's grades. So maybe you're not eligible to play, or if it's an injury that you don't want anybody to know about, it still has a direct effect. If you have to sit on bench, it's not affecting just the team. Yes, that's important. The mental health it puts on to student athletes when they have to miss a game for any reason, whether they screwed up or whether they're injured or whether they're ineligible, there's a huge mental component.
Yeah. And I think it's also huge. She's protecting her from that mental component as well by basically saying hey, it's none of your business why this athlete is not playing. And for any other athlete, it wouldn't be even in the media.
Right.
So she's giving the opportunity for a more highlighted player to have that same safety and security that any other player would get.
Yeah. And she's leading by example through that too, which I think, kind of backstepping to the coach's perspective, leading by example, look, we're going to hit this head on. And at the same time, it's okay to say it's none of your damn business right now.
Right.
But it can have a huge effect no matter what on the mental health side of things. So if you're a coach, whether you have to sit a player, need to sit a player, or they're injured and have to sit, always, always, always check in. Keep them involved, depending on the scenario, right? If it's an injury, or if it's something that's not a morale issue or a team-on-team violent issue or something like that, the more you can keep them involved, have them hold the clipboard, ask them, what do you think? And just keep them involved and engaged. That alone will be huge.
Yeah, whenever we have girls sitting out for injuries or any other reasons, we have them take notes on everything that happens during practice, because it's one thing just to sit there and watch practice, but it's another thing to be actively, like you're saying, involved in the practice. And we have them take the videos and be okay, what'd you see? Because also it's another eye that we don't get every day.
Yeah. If you're running drills, have them, in this case being basketball, if you need bounce passes, working on lane drills, or, working on fast breaks,
Yeah.
if they can at least, shove the ball out there, just keeping them involved and then checking in. How are you doing today? How is
Yeah.
this? Whatever the scenario is, don't shy away from it and wait for their feedback of what you're hoping gets better, whether it's grades, injury, mental, whatever. Ask them every day. Great. So how are we doing today?
Yeah.
Checking in on this. And keep them accountable if it is an unfortunate situation.
Right.
But also if it's not more of an unfortunate conversation, you're also letting them know, I'm still aware, haven't forgotten about you, still want to check in and get you where you need to be faster.
Yeah, for sure. Next one, Sam. Hit it.
This one might be my favorite of the week. Minnesota Vikings star wide receiver, Mr. Justin Jefferson. He said, my mental health is way more important than you winning fantasy football games. He has been injured, and he took to X, formerly known as Twitter, and said, it doesn't matter how many times y'all flood my DMs talking about me selling your team. I don't care.
What's his injury?
He has been out. I'm not quite sure what his injury is, but he has been out. His
Right hamstring.
Yep.
In week 5.
Yep.
Okay.
So his 21-day practice window opened November 8th.
Gotcha.
Well, I love this one
Go.
because it is not more important.
Yeah. It's just plain and simple.
Yeah.
I'm a person, not a roster filler.
Yeah, I think a lot of professional athletes get this heat, though, a lot, not even just in fantasy, but in general. Like, okay, you're getting paid this amount of money. Like, you need to be good to go on every single game and every single practice. But, like, in reality, that's not realistic. It's not, no one's perfect, not even professional athletes who get paid to do what they love.
Right.
It's not how it's going to work. Him also, like, saying I, like, watched the article or whatever, and he said, like, I'm not coming back until I'm 100%. And, like, another thing, that's another huge thing for, like, leadership, too.
Yeah.
He's a huge player on their team. I guarantee you he's a huge, like, locker room leader. So him saying, like, I'm not going to come back until I'm 100% going to be me on the field is huge for other people to see, too. Because I think people get into professional sports and, like, I have to play through everything. And not even professional, any, like, lower than that, too. They think I have to play through injuries. But no, you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's really great.
Yeah, and I mean, it says a lot right off the bat. Obviously, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to have some players that might want to milk the IR. There's very, very few and far between, I believe. But the fact that he's like, no, like, talk all the shit you want. Like, I am not coming back right now. So there's definitely something wrong. And kudos to him for knowing his body the best. They have some of the greatest resources in the world.
Yeah.
And while there is a time and place for healthcare professionals to dictate, like, this is what you need to do, this is how it needs to go, and they start to, the healthcare providers do everything right in their book, whether it's surgery and rehab and PT and conditioning, and they know they've done everything right.
Yeah.
And both sides feel super good about what was laid out. That's when the variable of me, the athlete, gets to choose, like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not saying we did anything wrong. I'm not saying nothing went right. I'm just saying, with what we have in place right now and where I'm at in my recovery, I'm just not ready yet. And like you said, leading by example with that is super important, because it's going to allow the other team, or the rest of the team, to be able to feel more empowered to do the same thing, when a lot of athletes can feel pressured, saying, man, I don't want my contract. I don't know. I'm going to be a free agent. And they can build everything in their way to come back too soon and potentially have a huge detriment to the career.
Yeah.
But then we had this just a few weeks ago, where I've also had an athlete where he didn't want to say anything.
Yep.
And this is a high school athlete, young. He's a sophomore in high school. And he had the conversation with me. I'm like, what's going on? I knew something wasn't right as I'm adjusting him, doing an evaluation, checking in on him. I'm like, spill it. What's going on? He's like, well, and he finally tells me this whole shoulder issue. And he's like, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to sit out. And I was like, that's great and all. Why really didn't you say anything?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I got pulled out of the last game and had to sit. I'm like, this is a legit shoulder injury. And he's like, people are already saying, oh, well, if he was in, or if he's not going to be a bitch, and it's like, whoa. It's like, one, why do we have team attacking team when there actually could be something wrong? And that's the last thing we need to do, is to provoke or enable or empower athletes of any stature, high school, college, professional, to not speak up and say, hey, I hate to say this. I want to be well and I'm not. I need help. I need resources. Here's what's going on. Can you help me? Because I want to play.
Right.
Versus the opposite, and then having team talk about team. Because here's the thing. In that scenario, there's also a wondering of, okay, we got to deal with that athlete from a mental standpoint. Why is he projecting the issue on this teammate with the game that they had coming up? It was a tough game coming up, and they're already starting to cast a possibility of them losing onto another teammate that's not able to play because he is a big centerpiece in the defense. So I love this one too. There's so many different aspects you can come from with this, but from the athlete side, you have to know you have to speak up. You have to do the work, and then you have to speak up and say, am I ready or not? But again, you go to the mental health issue of like, okay, are we managing that? Are we just managing Jefferson's injury? Or what other resources are in place? Because those guys too, I don't think that's talked about enough. I don't even think in the NFL and professional sports, I am not sure that they wholly incorporate very quickly as far as the protocol of even secretly managing their mental health without them even knowing it.
Right. Yeah, and I think another thing that kind of comes into play with this is ATs always get a bad rap about taking people out. People think that they just choose to take people out, but people don't realize that it's the hardest part of our job to take people out of what they love doing, and it's not just for fun.
Yeah.
We're not just telling people that they can't play games and they can't practice because that's just what we want to do. We don't want to just hang out with them on the sidelines. I would much rather watch them play this game that they love and practice what they love every day. So that's another thing, like, yes, maybe he also isn't ready, but maybe the sports medicine team isn't ready to let him go back either because they know that him going back, he's just going to injure it again.
Right. And we say this all the time with the clients we see and all the student athletes that we see is, honestly, we're not looking for a reason. We're not looking for what's wrong.
Yeah.
We're not looking to take you out of the game.
Yeah.
We're looking for, can we legally, liably keep you in the game?
Yeah.
And what do we have to do to keep you in or get you back faster? So a lot of times, here's a perspective shift for everybody to think about, because it is very knee-jerk if you have that child, is the captain, is the MVP, or is a centerpiece. No matter what it is, you're more likely to have that knee-jerk reaction. Well, can we just do this so they can play?
Right.
Can we just tape it up? Can we just it's not our favorite thing to do, to be like, look, they're out. So here's the perspective, is when we're doing testing on the sideline, it's like a lot of people think, well, we got to figure out what's wrong. No, we're doing all these tests to figure out what's good, what's right. Is this good? Is this good? Do you feel this? How is this? Does this do this? No. Then we know what it's not.
Yeah, especially on the sideline, like you're ruling out worst case scenario.
Right.
So that you can get them back faster. That's why when you watch professional football, the first thing they do is a Lockman's when they run out there, testing the ACL.
Yep. Yeah, that thing jars like an underwear drawer.
Yeah.
It's
People always see them do that. They run on the field. They're like, oh, what are they actually doing? What I'm doing is making sure he can maybe walk. And that's where you have to start. If they can't walk, then they're not going to play.
Right.
And then the other thing is coaches' relationship with ATs in that. Coaches have their jobs and ATs have their jobs, but they have to be able to work together. And if a coach is saying well, I have to have this athlete back, well, that's not your job. That's not in your scope of practice. It's in mine.
Yeah. And Erin's favorite line when talking about injuries and athletes and bringing them back is, they are what? People.
I was like, which one? I have a lot of lines. I was like, you're done. Which one?
I need this person back, because it's common. You hear that. You're in the brain space and mindset of competitive, and we got to win, and that's get it. That's natural. That's how we are as human beings. But be careful to not miss that is a person in front of you. And while you would love to have, make sure that Travis Kelce is back, to make sure that Jalen Hurts is back, or whoever's injured, and there's a lot of injuries in the NFL. We did that on the 3-minute drill in our private parent community on Facebook. But that is a person still in front of you. And just know, from a coach's perspective, from a parent sideline perspective, from a parent who is a coach perspective, if you get that, take a breath, because it's not the most fun thing for us to deliver, but just know that we understand, especially us, especially the two of us. If you deal with the two of us, just know that is a person in front of us first, not a jersey number, not a position player. and we're going to do what's best for them because there's always life after sport.
Yeah, I think especially coaching and being an AT, it's kind of sometimes hard to like take a step back and be like, okay, no, like you wear both hats.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times I see that in like the coaching world. People are like, oh, well, I told my AT this. No. That's not how it works. It's not a hierarchy.
Yeah.
You need to work together because at the end of the day, like, what is your goal? It's for them to play or them to dance or them to practice. So that's what you need to be working on, not like, well, I told my AT I need to do this.
And here's the deal as we kind of wrap this portion up is there's, especially nowadays, there is a lot of things changing behind the scene when it comes to protocol with injuries, from concussion to sprain strain to disc issues to whatever it is. There's a lot of things changing and updating that haven't been updated yet.
Yeah.
Especially in the student athlete side. And you're seeing a lot of professional athletes do this too, is I don't want to go that route. I don't necessarily, steroid injections are one of the biggest conversations right now.
Yeah.
Because athletes know what they do. There's a time and place for those things in a sense, but a lot of them aren't wanting to do that anymore.
Right.
So there are other options, and just know, and we're planting that seed now. Just know that don't be afraid to ask more questions, ask better questions, get better answers.
That's
and
later.
See what if there are any other options. Don't be afraid to go outside of the circle maybe you are forced into, because you still have a say.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people too, and this could be a whole different conversation, where maybe they don't prefer the resource that's provided for a very plausible reason. Morals, ethics, just vibe in general, relationship, whatever it is. There could be a very plausible reason where that wide receiver doesn't want to go to that team doc. And at the end of the day, you still have a choice.
Yeah.
You can go outside of that circle. No matter what they say, you can.
Yeah.
It's your health. You are that person. You get to take care of it. So don't be afraid to ask more questions about, well, this injury, here's what the book says. Is there another option?
Yeah.
Almost always there is.
Perfect. All right, so our next, we're kind of in the core of the episode. Core, see what I did there? So, so our core today is about the heart of leadership, something that we talk about a lot. It's always really at the forefront of my mind. So what do you think about leadership?
Well, I think we put out a reel or something on this earlier, or we're about to. We have both basically stared each other down and said the same thing at the same time. Leadership is an action.
Yeah.
It's not a label. It's something that is earned, not given. But leadership should be very actionable, and it doesn't stop. You don't, and it's definitely not. It's not a dictatorship. It's not a ultra authoritarian position either. As soon as if you have a teammate or somebody on your team, or if you get this glimmer of, ooh, I have authority now, you're wrong, and you need to check yourself very quickly.
Yeah, I think leadership also starts from the top down. I think being a athlete and then like turning into coach, you can't like not practice what you preach. You can't sit in practice and be like, okay, I need you working out outside of practice. I need you watching what you eat. Like, you can't say that and then turn around and not do it.
Right.
Then you just don't get respected.
Yep.
I think I love coaching people with leadership. I love doing the captain's retreats and like forming them into leaders. Even when I coached middle school, I was like, all right, listen, like we're going to have 8th grade officers and like you're going to learn how to be a leader, because just because you're in 8th grade doesn't mean that like you can't have that.
Right.
So I just love that whole aspect.
Yeah, there was a team I had coached in. I was actually back in LA for a short stint. There's a baseball team I coached, and I intentionally looked at none of their ages.
Yep.
And I always said, if I ever coached, and it's hard to do, like it wouldn't be 100% successful doing this, but I'd always said, if I ever, for some reason, do coach high school sport, I don't want to know what year you are.
Yeah.
Don't care. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, does not matter to me. Well, they have to start. They're a senior. No, they don't.
Yep.
Right? But here's the other thing with leadership too, is make sure if you're the coach that's elected a leader, or if you are a leader, you have teammates that are leaders, it's not just in the lines on the field, on the court, that you are a leader for that team, position, community, school.
Yeah.
It's what you do in the dark.
Yep.
Keep an eye on the merch. okay? Because we're coming out with a shirt that explains exactly this, and I want to say it, but I don't think I'm going to. Point being, they have to be a leader off the field.
Yeah.
Out from underneath the scoreboard, they need to lead too. What do their grades look like? Are they getting the guys together that whose grades suck, and are they forcing them? You're studying tonight. Oh, I'm gonna go get ice cream with my girlfriend. No, we're studying tonight because your ass needs to be eligible. That's leadership.
Yeah.
Having the hard conversations from the correct demeanor, from the correct come from. But it's what they do on the court. How do they treat their girlfriend? What do they do in the dark? What do they do in class? Do they pick stuff up on the floor? Do they see a napkin on the sidewalk and pick it up and throw it away? That's leadership.
Yeah, leadership is for sure a lifestyle. And like, I was captain 2 years on my team, and like your phone's blowing up all the time. You don't just get to show up to practice and decide like, okay, now I'm going to put on my captain hat. It's you wake up in the morning, like I'm thinking about that team. When I go to sleep, I'm dreaming about what we're going to do at practice the next day. And like, that's how it works coaching too. Like me and my like person I coach with are in contact all day long, because that's what you have to do as a leader. You don't just get to show up and decide like, okay, now you're going to listen to me.
Right. Yeah. And with leadership too, it's if it doesn't matter again how old you are, what year you are, it would be very inspiring. I'm going to give away a cheat code here to student athletes right now. And if you think you are eligible or valuable to be that leader, if you want to be that leader, say something.
Yep.
Put it out there. You can be a freshman. You can be in 8th grade. Like you said, it does not matter. But say perfect storybook scenario. This would work at any point in time. As long as you live that life, you are that person, you in your heart know that you want and can be a leader for that team.
Right.
Say you're a freshman and you're going into your first year, and you there walk up to the coach, have a coaches meeting, sit them down, call for it, ask for it. They'll listen. They should. If not, we got a whole different conversation.
Good coaches will.
Sit them down and say, hey, coaches, I just want to let you know whatever I can do to help, I am in.
Yeah.
I would love to be a leader on this team. I know I am a freshman. I honestly feel I have what it takes. Here's why, and let me know what you need me to do to capture that position. Because one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to get it, or you're going to learn what it takes. You made yourself uncomfortable. You put it out there, and now you're leading by example for other people. But guess who's in the front of mind when it comes to that conversation?
Yeah.
You. And as long as you're doing what it takes in the dark, it takes a lot to just be that person, to be that talent, to be that teammate, to be able to accept leadership role. It's a whole nother level of maturity and self-reflection of putting it out there. Not, oh, I'm gonna be the captain on this team.
Yeah.
No, that's ego. It takes a whole humbleness to be like, I'll do whatever it takes. I want to help lead this team. Here's my intentions. I'm putting it out there so you understand where I'm at and what I'm willing to give.
Yeah, there's also different types of leaders. Like there's some people who are just natural born leaders who, without even realizing it, they're a leader. Then there's also like there's more vocal captains. There's more just like behind the scenes in the dark. Like I always use the example on my senior year. Me and my best friend Joe were captains of our team, and I was more the not like harder captain, but a little bit. I was more vocal. I'm more vocal than Joe. I have more opinions that I just.
If you're not vocal, we got a problem.
Yeah.
If Erin's not talking, look out.
That's when you would know. And then Joe was the more like behind the scenes, like, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, go back, do it again. And so you have to kind of have that yin yang also when it comes to leadership. And like when picking captains, or even if you have your team vote on them, like that's also important to remember. Because yes, there might be a lot of leaders, say, in your senior class, but like who's going to work together the best is what's going to be best for your team. And also knowing like if you're not a captain, that doesn't really matter. Like I always tell my teams, every single person on your team has a role. You might not know like exactly what that role is, but you all play a very integral part in how this team operates, this team operates inside of practice, outside of practice, and in the hallways too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can take this we can spin this into the parents' perspective, because again, leadership comes from the top down. And at the end of the day, the household, the heads of the household are responsible for how these kids, young adults, student athletes develop, what they hear, how they're treated. So leadership looks like, from a parent perspective, is this can hit a lot of parents different. Leadership starts when they get in the car after the game. Mm-hmm. It's the first thing that comes out of your mouth.
Yep.
And how are you is valid. However, what you say in those first 5 minutes are really going to be what they remember. Mm-hmm. So whether it's good game, bad game, does not matter. Ask great questions. What was the most fun you had? Who else stood out to you today on your team? Because now you're getting them to think outside of themselves. And what are you going to work on? Because you're showing you're invested. You're not consoling them if they had a bad game. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. No, we're not saying coddle them.
Yeah.
But I also believe a lot of burnout, a lot of pressure comes from the ride home.
Yeah. I think my mom was so good about this. Like, I mean, dancing's a little different. I didn't have a game and then got home. We had like 10 dances in a row and she's seeing me for a second in between. Mm-hmm. And like, she also knows how my brain works. If I dwell on something, I can't move on. So she would see me after a dance. Okay, great, moving on. Yeah. Instead of just like, oh, do you want to talk about it? Because then I would just sink.
Yeah.
And so it's also knowing how your athlete, I'm obviously not a parent, but I can imagine knowing how your like kid functions, knowing how your athletes function, you have to coach them differently. Yeah. And like go through life differently. Because did my mom do that with my brother? No. Because my brother wanted to know about the game and he played baseball and football and wrestling and they talked about it. Yeah. Whereas me, I'm like, can we move on? Okay, here we go. Yeah. Like.
Yeah, and honoring that. And, and that's the thing as a parent is honoring your position. Yeah. Honoring the fact that the impact you're about to have could go one of 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. It could go forward, it could stand still, it could go south. Yeah. But the honoring who they are individually, because most households have more than one athlete, is very, very important and a very, very good point.
Yeah, and as a like captain too, you also have to remember that. Mm-hmm. Even not even just a captain, just captain. Like not even just as that, even as a teammate. Like you know that each person on your team is a different human being. You're not all cookie cutter. Like I'm on this team now. I don't have any other emotions or any outside feelings. So treating them that way, like there's some girls that I need to correct differently than others. There's some girls who want me to be like hard on them, and there's some girls who if I'm hard on them, they're like, what'd you just say to me? Right. And it's just knowing how that works. And yes, that might take a while, especially if you're new to a team. You have a lot of new members, but like that is your duty to then do the due diligence of coaching them correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the setup into that conversation is huge. I don't like the boot camp inspiration. I'll just tank or I'll tune you out. Yeah. It's like, oh, come on, fight harder. You be strong, man. It's like, no. It's, I'm very much a sandwich cookie person. Yeah. I love feedback. But if you tell me what's wrong first all the time, I will tank. Right. But, some people's like, dude, tell me what's wrong. I'll fix it. Yeah. I'm not really that person. Super inspire me, rah, rah, rah. No, that doesn't inspire me either. But having the conversation of like, I mean, just the solid, the ass pats, the high fives, let's go. The pick me up is like, man, dude, I never want to hear you'll get it next time. Yeah. No. Or it's okay. That's one of the things that you can take out in leadership, just verbiage wise, ground ball through the legs. It's okay. You'll get them next time. That phrase is gone. Yeah. You're literally reaffirming them that that's okay. So when they get so upset or insecure, it's like, well, actually it's okay. Right. It's like, no, you're not going to make them better that way, but you're not like, what the heck, heck are you doing? You got to get that. Keep your skirt down, Alice. It's like not everybody's going to respond to that. That was one of our things. Get your skirt down, Alice. But how you set that up and knowing that each person's different, honor that. And ask them, like, hey, bro, we both know that wasn't supposed to go that way. Right. Do you want me to rah-rah? Do you want me to hate on you a little bit? Or do you want me to give you a high five, not tell you that's okay and get better next time? What can I do to help get you past this and make you better? Just ask. Yeah. Whether you're a coach or player, teammate, captain, just ask.
I was going to say, just ask. Or like what we had our girls do this year was we had them take like the love languages quiz. Mm-hmm. And so they, like now we know like, okay, when we have a really great day and like I'm really proud of a person, like I'm a hugger. So like I'm going to go for the hug, but maybe someone on the team's like, I would rather you just tell me I did great. Mm-hmm. And so that's another huge thing. You just have to know your athletes. You have to know your teammates. And that's why it's so important that the only time that you're hanging out is not just in practice. Yeah. Like, and that's another leadership thing too, is getting them together. Like you brought up the grades scenario, but not just grades. Like bring them up whenever they're doing great. Have a Friendsgiving. It's the week of Thanksgiving right now. It won't be when we release this, but we always called it Squadsgiving on my college team. And having those.
We're doing a Squadsgiving.
Heck yeah, we are.
That's because it's your birthday.
My birthday giving. You're welcome. My presence is the present.
Yeah. So another leadership hack on that too is there's always that person, those couple people, those teammates that you have where you just kind of feel for.
Yeah.
And it's like, pick those people out and bring them up.
Yeah.
You know, whether they could be super quiet, they could be super angry, they could be super awkward, they could be, you know, you can tell they're left out, or you can tell they're struggling with their performance, or maybe they just don't have that group of friends.
Yeah.
You know, they don't come with anybody, their parents pick them up and they leave by themselves. Pick those people out, especially in high school, junior high school. It's tough.
It's such a pivotal time.
It's tough. It's not easy. It's hard. There's a lot of things mentally they're going through, hormonally they're going through. Cliques are real. The bullying, those kinds of things, while it might not be intentional, could be classified as that. Find those teammates because, again, you're dealing with a person. They're still wearing the same jersey. They're still in the same community, and they still have a meaningful life in front of them.
Yeah.
We can go super deep into this, but you know what I'm saying here. There's those that at least one, if not handful, where it's bring them up, bring them together, separately together, get them involved, bring them with you. Hey, we're studying. Hey, we're going to go, we're going to go to Circle 7 and go eat, or our parents are taking us here. Do you want to come?
Right.
Do those things.
Yeah, I think I've said this before. I think it was in a Pure Athlete Huddle where I loved coaching middle schoolers because I got to form how they viewed, in my case, the dance team world, how it was okay to be coached, how it's okay to act. And you get to mold that. And that's the same thing with high school. Like you get to mold how they know to be coached, how they know to act, how they know to do their homework, to get their grades. Because if they don't learn that, then they're going to go to college and maybe they go far away. Even if they don't, like you're still on your own. I think it's underestimated. People are like, oh, I'm going to stay home. Like I'm going to stay close to home. You're still on your own.
Yeah.
So if they don't know that before they go, like you're not setting them up as a human to succeed in life.
If they're doing that to be comfortable, be very aware. Like, you know, if kids here go to a local college, it should be because that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
That's where my role is with, you know, my expertise, my talent, whatever it is. But I am inspired to go. I'm out. I'm good. Or is it's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to stay home. That way mom and dad are here. And something went wrong somewhere. They are literally telling you something.
Yeah.
And as a parent, we can self-reflect a little bit. Did we make it too easy? Or is there something we can do to inspire? What can we give to them to make them better so they are driven, whether they're 3 miles away or 3,000 miles away, that it should be the same action, the same accountability. And even we dropped in our private community on Facebook for parents, some of the time management things and tips that we knew as elite level athletes that we're starting to give, because you said it kind of at the beginning, is it's like they know what they need to do. Yeah. They don't always know when they need to do it. So even as a leader, figuring that out so you can help the others around you, because I guarantee you, we hear it all the time from student athletes themselves. What is something you want resources on? We're forging our leadership by asking the questions of what you need. And it's one of the things is time management. So if you're a leader, learn that, figure it out very well, because the other 95% of your team at least is struggling with the same thing. Lead off the field. Yeah,
I told 3 of my girls this on last Friday. I was like, you're going to go home. You're going to write down every single assignment you have for the rest of the semester, and you're going to send it to me.
Yeah.
So then they know, like, okay, she's waiting on this when I get home, and I sure was.
I hope you led with Starbucks on that. Here's a Starbucks. You're gonna sit down and do everything on
Well, they had Friendsgiving before, so they were fully fed.
Okay, perfect.
But it's setting those expectations too.
Yeah, 100%. Leadership is real, and it looks so different. There's going to be a long form in our group for student athletes themselves where we like to put courses and modules and things. We're going to open that up to the community here shortly, but that's going to be one of the long form modules where we can give them tips and tricks and better questions to ask even their parents and their coaches to help them be a better leader. And if they don't get the C on the chest, that's fine. You're still a leader in the community. You still have to lead yourself in a certain way. So all of these things are going to be applicable as we start to upload those courses into the community.
Perfect. All right, so our next segment is actually coined after a very Dustinism.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
So it's called Ask Better Questions, Get Better Answers, which is a famous line that Dr. Dustin over here
Yeah, I think
says.
I've said it 2 or 3 times already in
Yeah.
this podcast. Now we're making it a segment. See? This is all new to me. I love episode 1 and the fact that you guys are just, unloading. I'm glad I was able to lead and have an impact.
You're welcome. So if you don't follow us on social media, we actually post a poll every week for this segment. So if you don't follow, that's your opportunity to get your questions asked. They are anonymous. You can ask whatever you want, and we will answer whatever you want.
Yep.
Open books here. So let me look at yesterday's story real quick and get you the live update. Let me pick. This is a good one to start with. Okay, so we have a local dancer in the area asking how much our programs are.
Oh man. So this is a perfect example. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
First of all, and engaging. Glad we picked yours.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example. So there was my thank you. There was my setup. Right? This is a perfect example of ask a better question, get a better answer. So as far as programs, so for those that don't know, so I'm a doctor of chiropractic. We own Bioperformance, Health and Wellness. You're an AT. We see a lot of student athletes. So are we talking about in-office programs? Are we talking about the community we have for student athletes where, we do have modules? Are you talking about personal coaching and mentoring from one of us? So really the simple answer as far as all of those things is we have programs from $10, one time pay this and you get this thing, or $10 recurring where we continually drop content to, I don't know. I mean, we've got care options can be north of $1,000.
Yeah.
It really just depends on what you're looking for. But the community we have online is we are going to be launching a community where it's probably going to be, I don't know, $29, $39, $49 a month or something, where we're going to put modules in there where you can just jump in and start to get some of this into your head, into your brain, learn more, really the educational items. But it really just depends on what you're looking for. So we'll just say from $10 to $10,000.
Yeah.
It really just depends. One of the biggest things, one of the things that we do is our ultimate
Our pure athlete evaluation.
our pure athlete evaluation, yes. That is $275 for athletes to do in our community. That's where we're at right now with it. And that comes a complete evaluation where we do hook them up to technology and we log data right here in front of us. We do a neurological and structural evaluation. What does their structure and foundation look like? Where then we can take it to the next step and build training programs to give them the proper care they need for what they have going on. So as far as a direct, like if I could pinpoint what something costs, it's probably there. It's so dynamic here as far as our programs, from the personal coaching side to the community to the care in our office. It's so dynamic that the price really does vary. I'm being very transparent. But of the one-liner item, like what's the pure athlete evaluation cost? It's $275. It's a complete evaluation that gives you a live look at yourself or on your student athlete, whoever we might be talking to in that respect, which is so worth doing. We have all of our parents that say, like, I wish we'd have done this sooner, and what do we do next? So I'll tell you, to enter into our space and interact with us the best way possible, I think, outside of, you could do the $10 thing, and that's cool. There's a lot of value and content in there. $275 as an athlete or a parent of a student athlete to get that kind of data is one of the best ways to start to interact with any of our programs.
Yeah, and what I want to say to that is $275 is a deal for all that you're getting. You go to urgent care, you're dropping $500 for no information, whereas you're getting $275 with so much information. It's literally like the bread and butter of what an athlete should know about themselves versus going somewhere else and paying who knows what for literally no information, or just to be referred somewhere else. So like short form answering this question, really whatever you need, have the capacity to do, the willingness to do, we have. And if we don't have it, we're not afraid to refer you somewhere else that does.
Or do it.
Yeah, or figure it out.
Or build it.
Yeah.
If we're comfortable, if we don't have it set up yet and we're comfortable doing it and we're super versed in it, then that can help us evolve to only give better resources. So, and that's what the Peer Athlete's all about, and is giving those resources, mental, physical, relationships. And that's one of the ways that people have loved to engage with us first is through that Peer Athlete evaluation. So more to come on that. If you have a more specific question regarding the programs, feel free to fire away again. Again, that's what this is for.
Yeah.
We've got a student athlete asking questions, and now we're able to help be like, okay, define it down a little bit. Let's have you ask a better question, and now she's going to know. Be direct.
Yeah.
My thing with this, with ask better questions, get better answers. Let's just go to the relationship side of things. You're with your significant other. Hey, honey, where do you want to go to eat tonight? Wow, what a question. Or, hey, I'm thinking about either sushi or Texas Roadhouse. Which would you like?
Yeah.
Better question. And you're going to get a better answer other than, well, I don't know. What do you want? So that's kind of where that came from. But we see it clinically all the time. We see it in coaching all the time. So asking better questions, getting better answers.
Yeah, we've said this before, but if you just want to reach out to one of us, both of us, the Peer Athlete account, our personal account, really whoever you think you're going to maybe like vibe with more, just go ahead and reach out. There's nothing holding you in after you reach out. Like we are just people just like you, and we'll talk to you about what maybe is the best for you.
Yeah, we're an open book.
Yeah.
We definitely want to be a resource. We will get back to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap for episode 1.
Episode 1. Hope you enjoyed. Again, catch us on social media, The Peer Athlete, all across the platforms.
Yeah.
Dr. Dustin Bosson on Instagram, which will get you to Facebook as well. If you want to try to friend us personally, as long as my purgatory list is long, I don't mean for it to be, but go ahead. We love adding people. So if you find all of our accounts, find them. Erin.Ruggeri.at. Yeah. So give us some feedback. Let us know what you need. Feel free to reach out. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned next week. Another episode.
Yeah.
See ya.